from this sector.
The honourable member for Battle River Crowfoot.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and it is an honour to be able to enter into debate on Bill C-18. Certainly, trade agreements is such an important subject of debate within this House, and I'm glad that we have this opportunity to do so. Now, before I forget, I would like to let you know, Mr. Speaker, that I will be sharing my time with my friend from Regina, Louvain. And before I get into the substance of my speech, since I'm on my feet in this House, Mr. Speaker, I would just note that today is a day of remembrance for the tragic shooting that took place at a mosque in Quebec. And I think it is incumbent upon all of us to ensure that we take time today to consider the implications of hate. And likewise, 2 days ago, it was the International Holocaust Remembrance Day. Two poignant days this week, reminding us all the tragic consequences of hate. Mr. Speaker, as we enter into debate on one of the constitutionally the very significant roles that this place plays, that is Canada's relationship with other global jurisdictions. And no more important is that relationship with Great Britain, with the United Kingdom. We share a governmental system. In fact, the opening lines of our Constitution refer to this government being one based in principle upon that of the Westminster system of governance. And certainly we share a lot of history and even the symbolism around this place, and many of our provincial flags represent that long shared history. And it is, as the United Kingdom has undertaken some pretty significant changes over the last number of years. We've seen with Brexit and the exit of the United Kingdom after a referendum from the European Union, and certainly the last year as they've negotiated the intricacies of that, bringing us to the point where we are here today debating a new trade agreement, or a continuity agreement, as a stopgap between the previous CETA and what we expect will be a more fulsome trade agreement in the coming years, and what the United Kingdom, acknowledging what the United Kingdom has gone through over the last year as well, both securing their trade agreements with many partners in Europe as they exited the European Union, but also around the world. Now, it is a little bit troubling, Mr. Speaker, to be honest with you, because we see in typical fashion of this government that they and in fact in direct contradiction to commitments that they made in this place, that this process was brought forward at the 11th hour. Now, the parliamentary secretary that spoke before me made a statement that said trade deals take time. And yes, that's absolutely correct. But it is incumbent upon the government to ensure that steps are undertaken, that they're anticipating moves, and we knew for a number of years that the circumstances relating to the UK's position in Europe would be changing significantly, and it's disappointing, quite frankly, that we find ourselves now in a position where at the 11th hour we are now debating this continuity agreement when other jurisdictions, comparable jurisdictions, have taken steps to go much further than what we're debating here today. And certainly it is the opinion of many that had the government been more proactive, had the government worked more diligently to ensure that steps were taken early, that we would be in a very, very different position. And ultimately, because Canada is a trading nation, whether that be, we've spent a lot of time this week discussing our trading relationship with our neighbors to the south. The United Kingdom, I believe, is our fourth largest trading partner as a nation. As a trading nation, all of these sorts of agreements have massive implications upon our economy and upon jobs and the security of Canadians. And one of the troubling trends that we see with this government, Mr. Speaker, is that they seem to not take seriously the need for certainty, investment certainty, certainty of the economic circumstances which allow people to do things like plan for their futures. You know, a trade agreement is a massive undertaking, negotiations, complex negotiations between two jurisdictions, and in the case of the United Kingdom, we have similar legal systems, you know, a long history. We share a queen. You know, you couldn't be closer than that. But there's massive intricacies involved in that, and when we see these 11th hour deals be brought forward, it brings a level of uncertainty, which, although many may suggest that doesn't have an impact on the ground of regular Canadians, I would submit to you, Mr. Speaker, that it has a significant impact. Because jobs are impacted each and every day by the certainty of ensuring that investment has a clear path. When a company or an entity is looking to invest in a jurisdiction, they want that certainty. They want that understanding that there's not going to be a massive upheaval in jurisdictions, that there will be consistency in the long term. And that's really at the heart of why it's so troubling that we are debating this. We're actually debating this after the UK left the European Union, and although there's been work to ensure that there's further stopgaps that provide a bridge between the exit of the United Kingdom from the European Union, which took place the last day of last year. And before this bill is actually passed, there's been some significant work that's been done to ensure that there's measures to bridge that. And then we're debating another bridge to which we will see within 3 years very clearly that we'll enter into more fulsome negotiations for further trade agreements. Mr. Speaker, I think that speaks to some of the challenges that we face and why this debate is so important. You know, Mr. Speaker, there are many aspects of this bill that reflect very similarly to the agreement that we negotiated with CETA, and I would just like to compliment former Conservative government led by Stephen Harper, and specifically, and I know the member from Abbotsford was the trade minister for a good portion of the Harper government's tenure. And Mr. Speaker, there is no question that the Conservative Party is the party of free trade, and that member, when he spoke on this particular bill the other day, it was incredible the wisdom that he brings to the conversation, and the fact, the clear fact, that many of the deals that this government takes credit for the heavy lifting was done by the previous Conservative government. In fact, when it comes to CETA, we saw a panic on Liberal ministers' faces when they almost screwed it up and had to rush back into negotiations with Brussels and other jurisdictions to save the deal, because they decided to change things up. And then we see how they were quick to jump into negotiations with the United States. We came out, I would suggest, behind in the new NAFTA or the HAFTA agreement, and then the CPTPP as well. The heavy lifting of much of that was done by the previous government. And I would just note, and I see that there's about 1 minute left in my time, Mr. Speaker, and there's significant details that I would love to get into. But, you know, it's interesting because the Liberals will claim that they're all about free trade, when the reality is, even in the '93 election, they ran on a campaign of seeing on two major promises, actually. One was getting rid of the GST. Well, I'm not sure about you, Mr. Speaker, but I still pay GST on everything. And then two was pulling out of NAFTA. And when they saw the value of trade, Mr. Speaker, they seem to have changed their tune. And I'm proud to be a part of a party that has worked diligently to increase trade globally. Now, Mr. Speaker, my final comment would be, and I know a number of members have brought this forward, but the need to address some of the pension disparity that UK expatriates have in Canada. Certainly, Mr. Speaker, that's something that I was disappointed, as I hear from constituents often that have uncertainty regarding their pensions. And I would hope, and my final statement would be this: I would hope that as the government moves forward into the fulsome trade agreement, that they would use their position at the bargaining table to advocate for UK pensioners that live in Canada, and in some cases have lived in Canada for many, many years. So thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's an honor to be able to participate in this important debate today.
And I see that there are a number of members who wish to pose questions to the honourable member for Battle River Crowfoot, but I ask them to just stand by on that, and because he will have 5 minutes remaining for questions and comments when the House gets back to the question that's the motion.